Tinubu has suspended EFCC chairman Bauer from office, and also naira dollar to naira is now 800 naira at the CBN market. So you can actually keep your fingers crossed to see what that entails to the market in general. I am Sela Elisha Dashim, and the program is the Dailies on Echo Television International, where we keep you updated with what's happening from the papers this morning. And right by my side, I have Rachel Tanzi. Good morning, Rachel. How you doing?
I'm fine. How about you?
I'm great, thank you. We're live on Facebook and on YouTube. You can do well to drop your comments or your contributions on any story that is of interest to you this morning. And let us go straight into the papers to see more detail, and we'll be starting with the New National Star newspaper.
On New National Star newspaper, student loan, federal government sets September 2023 for commencement of disbursement. You can find the details on page 9. Election petition OB INEC dash over witness summons on Yakubu. 50% of Nigerian children engaged in child labor, says Anambra government. Tinubu signs data protection bill into law. And the big story on the paper, naira to hit 800 naira per dollar as CBN liberalizes foreign exchange market. The writer flowing the story says banks get CBN not to sell at market determined rate. Foreign exchange rate liberalization will boost economy, attract FDI coming from expats. Bureau de change operators fear business and job losses. Court admits statisticians' report in Atiku's petition against Tinubu. And on insecurity, give us time to work things out, APC tells Amnesty International. You can find the details on page 17. Tinubu suspends EFCC chairman Bauer from office. At the downside of the paper, 10th Senate begins sitting at John's plenary till July 4th. Kwara boat mishap, death toll hits 106 coming from the police. And on subsidy removal, oil marketers, no fuel importation. You can find the details on page 15. We have a picture story from left to right where we can see the Emir of Borgu with the president and the Emir of Kogoro. And that's all the news on New National Star.
On Daily Sun newspaper, OB INEC lawyers clash over summon on Yakubu. You can find detail of that story on page 6 of the Daily Sun newspaper. The big story, Tinubu's hammer falls again, smashes EFCC chairman, with the writer orders probe of Bauer, director of operations, to act as the EFCC chairman. You can find detail of that story on page 27. Kwara boat mishap, Tinubu orders probe as death toll rises to 106. NMDPRA marketers meet to advert petrol scarcity. We are cash stripped, says NOGA, the new COSA. You can find that story on page 25. Labour vows to push for immediate salary reward to lessen effect of subsidy removal. You can find detail of that on page 2. Federal government molds autonomy of public varsity as disbursement of student loan begins September. Bandits attack mourners, kidnap policemen and 2 others in Benue. Nigeria, India agreed to block pipeline of illicit drug flow as NDLEA, NCB signs memorandum of understanding. You can find on page 4. Reps declare Bajabia Miller seat vacant. You can find that story as well inside the paper. Tinubu signed into law data protection bill. You read more of that story on page 6. Naira sells for 755 naira per dollar as federal government gives bank power to decide forex rate. With the rider anxiety over liberalization of forex market, you can find on page 2. Gunmen abduct 7 University of Jos students. You find detail of that story on page 4, and I hope that they find them at the time where the students are writing their exams, for those who are in final year and also for those who are still writing. We hope that the policemen will be, security agency, everybody will be on his tool to actually do the right thing. We have picture story here where we can see the Senate President Godwill Akpabio exchanging pleasantries with the former Senate Chief Whip Oji Uzokadu yesterday, and we can also see another section, Senator Abari Wright and Dr. Kadu and others. You can do well to grab the Daily Sun newspaper and read details of stories that of interest to you.
On Nigerian News Direct, Nigeria reclaims top spot as Africa's largest crude oil producer in May 2023. CP eludes unification of exchange rate. NCC tax telcos on network security and consumer safety. And the big story, power reshuffle. Tinubu suspends EFCC chairman as panic rises among Buhari's appointees. Bauer to undergo proof over witty allegations and conduct in office. Emefiele's example spurs anxiety. You can find the details on page 2. CBN releases guidelines for forex market, abolishes naira for dollar, RT200 rebate schemes. Bold mishap, Kwara rolls out new safety guidelines as Governor Abdulrazak leads delegation to Patigi. Tinubu assents to data protection bill. Gunmen kidnap policeman, 2 others in Benue. You can find the details inside the paper, and that's all the news on Nigerian News Direct.
On the leadership newspaper, still on Kwara boat misship, 144 rescued, 33 bodies found in Niger. You find detail of that story on page 7. I think this is a time where we have to do more. I remember we were having a conversation with you, Rachel, where we were looking at the issue of safety, especially when it comes to people who are not so very familiar with the water body, and we have seen that we are learning it in the hard way, where we are having the death toll even rising to about 106, and there's some are still missing. We have seen that 7 bodies are found in Niger State. So I just hope that this will serve as a lesson, not just to Kwara State, but for every other state, especially those who are by the riverine areas, for those who have to use either the boat or the canoe to actually cross from one side to another. I hope that there will be safety, measures that will be put in place, talking about having some tubes, talking about having some life jacket, even having, if I was assuming that even we're having even some those were expertise in protecting and also saving lives, especially when it comes to the water, wouldn't have these casualties this much. So I hope that this will be a step and also a lesson for us as a country, that will begin to look into measures that will be put, especially when it comes to people who live by the riverine areas and you have to cross from one place to another. We had cases where even INEC officials have died as a result of that. We've had where even as a result of even the water flood, even coming into communities to take away lives. So I hope that this will serve as a lesson. Now, I'm happy that the governor himself is leading the delegation into seeing what they can do. So I hope that other governors will take a lead from there and then do the right thing.
Sele, what always breaks my heart about Nigeria is we always wait for something terrible to happen before we take the right step. This is not the time the governor is supposed to be taking the lead. It should be prior to now, because you are in a state where people move on boats. There's water transport for them to go to their villages, and the next step, this is something guidelines should have been in place, because this is a function that it is important, because this is how people travel. The same way when we have the railway, things are supposed to be set in place for road, for air, for everything, and then you don't do anything about it until when something happens, then you try to do something about it. I feel this is failure at its peak, and then we should watch towards that, because when you see something little that should be looked into and is not, then it breaks my heart a lot, because I wonder, when are we going to get it right, when even the little things we are not getting it right. When you see this boat and you hear the number of people on it, you already know that's wrong. How are 300 people on top of this kind of boat in the first place? That's already wrong in the first place completely. Then secondly, what are the safety measures? Perhaps the boat cannot afford, or whoever owns the boat, or however the system works, they cannot afford to have all. Number one, they are overboarded in the first place. So even if to say they were life jacket, it won't go around other people. What are the other measures, like tubes that are there, Sele? When I see little things not being, we don't get them right in this country, it makes me wonder, if we can't get the little things, how then can we get the big things? Because everything starts small. So I'm just looking forward to a country, Sele, where we get the little things. From the little things that we can get the big things. Because when things are happening with smaller things, then we will keep growing, and before we know it, the big things don't even look that big anymore to us. So I just hope that this is not only in Kwara where this happened, but in every other state. We have places like Taraba, we have other places where you need to travel to get to another village. What are the safety measures? This is not the first time we are seeing that something like this have happened and it keeps repeating itself. What are they doing to make sure that people are not losing their life? We know that we don't grow up swimming. So what strength do you even have? You're not an athlete to swim to shore or to the next side of. So it's just the right safety and measures to be taken, and just the little things. Let's get the little things.
Because very little things matter. We hope that we'll take that very seriously. Still on the leadership newspaper, DSS quiz suspended EFCC chairman Bawa. You can find detail of that on page 7. We could recall that even civil societies were moving for the motion for the suspension of the EFCC chairman. We have seen that finally he has been suspended because according to some of the allegations being put, was the fact that he was misusing his office for some things that were not proper. So we keep our fingers crossed to see where the DSS will come out of this. Of course, we saw on the papers from the arrest of the CBN from the arrest of the CBN by the DSS, and also some of the squeeze. A lot of people on their toe, and we've seen that just like people are saying, the president has been moving with so much speed. And we hope that for all of those people who have actually misused their power while in office, we hope to hear more arrests being done, just so that we can keep everybody on his toe and to make sure that things are working as they should be working. So we'll keep our fingers crossed, and we bring more updates of all of these things to our viewers as the story keep unfolding. Still on the leadership newspaper, APC slam Amnesty International over claims of 120 killings under Tinubu. You find detail of that story on page 6. And on subsidy removal, reps tax federal government on palliative measures. Still on the paper, we have NUPEC and SCDC face off. Audit orders Rivers commandant to step aside. You find detail of that on page 9. The big story, Tinubu begins monetary policy reform, floods Naira. With the writer of that story here saying, CBN collapsed forex into import and export window, scrap RT 200 rebate Naira for dollar remittance scheme, expert optimistic as equity market gains 2.2 trillion Naira in 2 days. You can find detail on page 4. And an explainer say how floating of Naira affects the PTA fees and PTA and then the small and medium enterprises. So you get to find more detail of what this Naira means. Not just to even that, but even to even goods and services. What does that mean? So you read detail of that story on page 4. We still have a picture story showing the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Abbas, with his deputy. So you do well to grab the leadership and read more details of stories of interest to you.
On First News newspaper, subsidy removal provides citizens palliative, now reps tell federal government. INEC cautious Labour Party against blackmail. Drama as rep decries incantations during House inauguration. CBN abolishes multiple exchange rate window. Nigeria partners with India to block its illicit drug flow. And the big story on First News, suspended EFCC chair Bawal surrenders to DSS undergoes grilling. After President Tinubu orders his indefinite suspension probe over abuse of office, he's already in our custody coming from the DSS. 5 issues surrounding suspended EFCC chair stay in office. Federal government to disburse student loan from September as ASU cries out act will force many students out of school. Senate adjourns plenary until July 4th. 10th House Bajabiamila resigns membership, assumes duty as Tinubu COS. Edwin Clark writes EFCC alleges Okowa misappropriated over 1.7 trillion naira, says governors now richer than their states. And we have Ganduji asked court to restrain AFCC from probing him. This is on Dollar Video. You can find the details inside the paper, and that's all the news on First News newspaper.
All right, let's take a look at the Daily Independent newspaper. Airpeace chairman asks Tinubu to disband National Carrier Project. You find detail of the story on the front page and more inside the paper. Marketers cry out over differentiating to NNPC after subsidy removal. You find detail of that as well. Exchange rate unification, yes, at CBN freeze flood Naira with the rider. Currency sells for 755 Naira per dollar. Danger ahead, analysts warn. You find detail of that story on the front page as well. Students to enjoy federal government loan from September. And we also have another story that says gunmen abduct 7 UniJust students. We find detail of that on page 6. And I would like to say a little about this, Richard, the issue of adoption of students. This is not the first time we're having, and we've always brought to the attention of the government what are some of these measures that are being put in place to make sure that students can actually study without any fear. Let's not just look at University of Jos, because already the students have always been victims in one way or the other. Maybe as a result of the location where the school is, and then security, or will I say, yes, security is actually not being prioritized. Permit me to use that word, because if it was being prioritized, we begin to see measures being put not just by the governor of the state, but even by, because this is a federal university, so we're expecting that measures will be put by the federal government as well to all the federal universities. This is not the first time we're having issues of adoption taking place in any university. We had that of the Greenfield University in Kaduna State, where the students spent days and even months, and then it took measures from the parents themselves, because we remember clearly that the governor, as of that time, said that the parents should not do anything, that no money should be paid to the kidnappers, and the parents took it upon themselves. They cannot afford to have their wards in the den of these kidnappers. Let's not even talk about the trauma they have to go through.
Yes.
And now we are beginning to see this. Let's even go down to even the secondary school. Till they were still having some students missing. We saw the papers recently. Parents are still asking for the release of the remaining Chibok girls. Today we're yet to hear news about Leah Sharibu. Where is she? What is the update so far? And it seems as if most of the story have been swept under the carpet. And we are taking this opportunity to raise this, raise the conscience of the people involved to please do something about the safety of students in school. Ideally, in a federal university, all students are supposed to be in the campus. But we still have students staying off campus. Why? Because because there's no accommodation enough to take, the student. Even go down to even the way the classes are looking. Sometimes they are glorified secondary school. So we are hoping that number one priority of any government is to protect lives and property. And then I should not be afraid to go to school, because I do not know what it will be at the end of the day. We remember last year during the issue of Deborah when she was killed, it was traumatizing for the parents, because the mother said she can't allow the remaining kids to go to school because of what happened to her daughter. The daughter was not safe and she was killed. And today we're yet to hear updates of what happened to her killers. Are they in Nigeria? Where are they? What is the update? These are questions that Nigerians keep asking every day. We still have killings in various local government areas, in various states. And you ask, what is the government doing? What are our security agencies doing about all of this? So I'm bringing this because it's now becoming like a normal day thing that every day we read on the paper. Killings here, adoption here, and then nothing is being done about that. So we hope to see swift action coming from our security agency as well as the government to please protect the schools where students go to school. Most time you hear that it's on their way going to school, this thing happen and all of that. So I hope to see measures coming from the government and also the security agency on protecting the students.
Of course, Stella, just as you said, when you see certain things happening, it just shows that there's failure somewhere or somehow. Because now the question is, were these students going from campus to class? And like that's the hostel within the school areas, and then they go, because we know how UniJust is situated. We have the main cab, we have the permanent side, and we do have students who are staying at the hostels that have to go to the main camp for and they report where did this happen, or is it those that are staying off campus? Now, if it is for those staying off campus, then the question, there are so many factors we ask. Why are they off campus? Is it because there are not enough hostels? Then it means the university have failed to be able to make sure that every student is on campus ground. Is it those that are going from the hostel to the main camp and got and kidnapped? Then you wonder, what security system have the school put in to make sure that these students don't ride in a wrong taxi or be vulnerable to such attack? These are all questions that shows us that, you know what, there's so much work that needs to be done. Our system is faulty on so many levels, Sarah. And the more we talk about it, the more we dig deeper, you just see that people have been sleeping on their jobs, because it's not rocket science, Sele, but when we start it little by little, step by step, we'll be able to get where we want to go. So I just hope that everybody wakes up in Nigeria, Sele. Let our security people wake up. It's not only about trying to get terrorists or herdsmen. In fact, you're not even succeeding at that level. What about people in the city? What about people that are getting abducted and waking up to see themselves in Lagos, waking up to see themselves in a state out of where they were taken from? How did that happen? What are the measures that the government are supposed to take to make sure that things like that don't happen in the country? So, Sela, I just hope that we wake up and that the university put on strict measures to make sure that their students are safe, because it is also their responsibility.
Of course, you know, when you mentioned the fact that whether it was through transport, I remember there was a time that some of this shuffle that we do use back then in school, they're being registered. If you're talking about going back to the SUG, the union being set for those in the campus and off campus. Maybe if those unions are sleeping, it's high time we wake them up so that we'll be sure of the taxis that, you know, the students use, just in case if that was the way it happened. Still on Daily Independent, we've seen anger as oil spill sacked 300 fishermen in Rivers community. You find detail of that on page 7. Also on the paper, court acts to stop EFCC from probing Ganduji over dollar videos. Senate adjourned to July 4th over lawmakers' welfare. You can find detail of that on page 6. And we have CSO asks Tinubu to arrest ex-minister Malami and others. You find detail of that on page 3. Tinubu suspend EFCC chairman Bawa, signs Nigeria data protection bill into law. Monsquara both misshape victims and others investigation. You find detail in the paper. Amoteku pirates kidnap rescue 16 abducted travelers. Detail can be found on page 8, and that's all on Daily Independent newspaper.
On New Telegraph, ECA, Buhari squandered $1.6 billion as revenue dropped to $473.7 million. Kenyan court freezes 45 bank accounts of Flutterwave. You can find the details on page 27. And on subsidy removal and flooding, reps urge federal government to provide palliatives, stockpile food and relief materials. How deal to hand over Arik Airline to original owners collapse, coming from AMCON. Bajabia Miller resigns from House, Abbas declares seat vacant. Beyonce blamed for inflation surprise in Sweden. You can find the details on page 4. And the big story on New Telegraph is Nigeria moves to abolish multiple rate. Naira slumps to 664.04 per dollar at investors and exporters window. The writer flowing the story, Tinubu's PAC proposes amendment of CBN Act, advises transfer of banking supervision to separate regulatory authority, recommends hike in capital requirement of BDCs. Apex Bank scraps RT200 rebate Naira for dollar remittance scheme. You can find the details on page 3 and 5. 10th National Assembly, Senate ready to receive communications from executive, writes Tinubu. Heavy rain flooding can undermine transmission towers foundation. This is coming from TCN. You can find the details inside the paper. Nigeria's top Africa crude producer rebound to be short-lived, says IEA. Tribunal admits statisticians' report in Atiku's petition against Tinubu. Abuse of office allegation, Tinubu suspends EFCC boss Bawa indefinitely. And at the downside of the paper, we have a study, cotton buds leach toxic microplastics into food. And I believe that it's time we go back to using the wooden chopping boards. Yes, you can find the details on page 26, and that's all the news on New Telegraph.
Rachel, I want us to talk about this heavy rain flooding can undermine transmission towers foundation coming from the TCN. And I do not know if it's happening down to your side, but there has been this blackout of lately in Plateau State, and I tend not to understand what the problem is, because I do not recall where we are having all these electricity distributors sending a text message, you know, to actually raise awareness or let the citizens know that for a period of time you won't be having a light based on this and this and this. And let's go down to those who are actually looking at small scale enterprises, small businesses that are actually using this electricity. We're still having the issue of the fuel subsidy being removed. So if, for example, if I am operating a little salon or a barbing salon, or even if I'm whatever it is, I would definitely need the light. So imagine where there is no light and I need to go and buy fuel to actually fuel my little generator to run my business. I will be running on a loss. And I think, just like we're saying, it's high time we raise up to our, or wake up to our responsibilities as citizens, or if you're being given a responsibility to do, take it down to the latter, because I tend not to understand the reason why there has been no light. And I'm sure that for other people, because if you go to the social media, especially those who are living in, you know, their just environment, you get to understand that that is what has been happening of late from Monday. And then today is Thursday. So I think it only be ideal. What happened to those days where you see a message coming that for so local government, local government, you won't be having light based on this and this and this and this. Rachel, you tend to be smiling, but it's really not funny. And I hope that they wake up to do something, really, because it hurts, especially looking at those who have businesses and then there's no light. Because I can't remember TCN, you know, telling us, the transmission company telling us that there will be no light. If it is as a result of flooding, let the people know that this is the reason why there won't be light based on this and that. Not having a 1 hour light or 2 hour light and then blackout all of a sudden. I hope they do something about that.
The reason why I'm smiling is because the last time I heard that people do get information from power holding companies concerning a blackout is way before our parents had us sell it. Because it's stories of the old, and my mom would tell me that before NEPA or the private power companies would take the light, they would send in message to them telling them, okay, between 8 to 9 o'clock, we're taking out the light for general maintenance and all of that. Ever since growing up, I can't remember when
I got it, Rachel. I'm saying that because I remember while there was a time like this. And also there was a time where they said for so state will be having maybe power grid, there will be no light based on maintenance.
When is that big, Sele? You understand? When is that big, we do get that message. But not when it's just in few places affected. I can't remember when last. You will be the one calling them to ask them, and then that's when they will give you, if you meet a kind customer service person who is patient enough to tell you this is what has been happening. But the truth is that there's been failure in that kind of communication in this country. Honestly, I don't know, maybe the NEPA in your area are more diligent to their job, but in my area, I can't remember when last we got something like that, an information telling us that, okay, something happened. We are always the one making the calls to know what happened. There haven't been line. Then you might hear rumors saying, okay, a pole fell somewhere else, something was stolen from a transformer,
of course,
and something like that, Sele. So it shows that for long there have been no adequate communication when it comes to our power holding companies, and it also shows that they don't take maintenance seriously, because I keep saying it that you are supposed to plan ahead. We believe that you have people doing their job, so there should be a warning. There should be a futuristic plan for what might happen or come in the future. We already have a prediction since last year of flooding as a power holding company, what have you done to make sure that it doesn't affect electricity? So I mean, Stella, there's just so much, and that's why I'm smiling, because the more we talk about the things happening in the country, the more we just see that so much needs to be done, and we're just praying and trusting God that one day we'll truly have people in the country that want to do the work and make Nigeria better, because there are a lot of lapses in our system, and I keep saying that if only we did the little things, the bigger things would not be that much of a problem for us.
Well, I think for now I will just let this slide, but I hope that when we finally have our Minister of Power and then we begin to have the commissioners in various levels, we hope to have people who are responsible. Yes, of course, we will pray, but we hope that the work will be the work will actually be done at the end of the day. Well, before we move further, Rachel, I think we're ripe for a break at this moment, so we can open the phone lines for our callers. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are, what your contributions are. We've said a lot of story, looking at the Unify, talking about dollar to naira, which is most likely to be 800 naira as a result of trying to look at the global window, the market, and how it's going to look. Also, we've heard that the president on the paper, he has actually, suspended the EFCC chairman, and presently he's going through some probes. So we hope to give you more details of that, and also a lot of stories on the paper this morning, where we have about 6 students being abducted from the University of Jos here in Plateau State. So we hope to hear from you what your thoughts are and what your contributions are. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Make your everyday informative, make your everyday count. Know your world, daily affairs, national and international, with authentic news events as they unfold on Global News and Zoom on Nigeria, Monday to Friday at 1 p.m.
Thanks for staying tuned. It's still the Dailies on Network Television, and we've been keeping you updated with what's happening on the papers, the arrest of the EFCC chairman, and also naira to dollar, which might likely be 800 naira, students who have been adopted from University of Jos, and also TCN telling us information about flooding and how it has affected the foundation. These and many other stories are what we have been looking at on the papers. So at this moment, our numbers are displayed on your screen. Please do well to call us. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are concerning any of the story that is of interest to you. Please do remember to turn down the volume of your TV set, and also you have just 30 seconds, to make your contribution, as other callers would love to also, contribute concerning stories that are on the paper. I still have Rachel with me. All right, we already have a caller.
Rachel.
All right, please, Mr. Sam, go ahead. Good morning.
I want to comment on this student loan.
All right.
I just want to start by asking a question. Yes, it's a good idea. Other countries do it. But I hope Nigeria will not be like things like a back of industry, things like feeding of school children, like that. Like those were good ideas, but were not well managed. Because I was at the time I was asking some students, primary school students around my area, how are you? Fine, Uncle. I hope you fed very well today at school. They don't give us food. That is what you hear from many. And you hear every month, every now and then, trillions, billions that was this kind of school feeding program. But who were those students being fed by the federal government? Today you ask yourself, what is the purpose of back of industry? To help upcoming businesses to grow, to develop, and to maybe possible create a job for other people. But how many common or middle class Nigeria are benefiting from back of industry? If you go to back of industry as a middle class person, maybe without any backing or a senator or anybody governor giving you a recommendation letter, you cannot access loan for back of industry. Hope this school student loan will not be like this. That you could turn to it and the so-called poor people in Nigeria government want to help will not even benefit from this loan. And another question I want to ask, countries where these loans are existing that we are copying for, they have what will happen when you finish school after government giving you loan to go through school and you finish, there is no job. Because it's when you finish and you have a job, you have a means of paying back this loan. What will happen after that? Because Nigeria only one university in Nigeria pass out over thousands of graduates every year. How many of them are getting employed? How would they get this money to pay back? Would it not just be another means of, I don't know the word to use, like we just be hearing billions, trillions spending in student loan every year, and if you ask, you can even be in the same school, but this loan you don't get that, I never get that. Who are those people benefiting from this loan? But you'll be just hearing billions every year going for student loan. I think instead of this, we need more industries in Nigeria. Like the security we are saying that happening, just our schools need to be protected. Create more jobs for people. Forget about this student loan. It's a good idea, but I don't think it will be well managed in Nigeria. When you come out of this school, you have hope or say, yes, there will be something for me to do. Not that when you finish school, you'll be at home. We see somebody with BSc driving Uber and boats. So I know of a guy who works with this waste disposal, and he's a graduate. So instead of us making this student loan as a priority, I think creating of jobs should be the major priority, not student loan. At the end of the day, if you finish, you don't have means of paying. Like COVID-19, what was it called that was given? How many people got those money? And even the one that said they were asked to pay back, the body government has had over to Tinubu that how many have paid back the loan? The COVID-19 that was given to people. I heard people that benefited that they were supposed to pay back. But nobody asked for repayment till date. I don't know where this student loan is going. I think the best idea is just to know how to create jobs, not to give student loan as at now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Richard, you have you tend
Yes,
to be following up.
my opinion, I started voicing that out since yesterday, because the truth is that, Sele, let's look at Nigeria and what truly is the problem in our educational system. And the truth is, a student loan at the level of the tertiary institution is definitely not a problem in Nigeria. Let's tell ourselves the truth, because if there is a place where parents are struggling with financing their children to school, it's at the primary level and at the secondary level. And we know that these are the basic education that people need. Now, in countries that we are trying to copy and give this, you notice that the primary education and the secondary educations are not expensive, and free. Colleges, they are free.
Right, let's
exactly.
take this call, Rachel. Good morning.
Jumbo.
All right,
Calling
Kennedy.
from Port Harcourt, Rivers State.
All right, Kennedy. How is PH this morning?
One of the topics this morning about EFCC's boss being arrested, I think it's a welcome development. If our president will start from this, I think start from the top, sanitizing, I think the Nigerians will have hope, will believe in him that actually something will be done. But let it not be something he starts now because his case is still in court, to lure people to be with him, and at the end of it, he drops the baton. But what I'm praying is that let him continue with this and let his eyes see all those areas that has made us to be where we are. We're no longer respected when we go out of Nigeria. And the leadership no longer have respect when they come out in public. People just see them as every other corrupt person. We don't even know who is good among the leadership, just in every facet, in military, in security, in business, in politics, all. We just lack hope in our leadership. But with what is happening now, sanitizing from the top, I think God will help us. Let it continue so that it will get down to the real bottom of the root of corruption in this country, because we have suffered a lot. Corruption has dealt with us. So thank you. That's my take.
All right. Thank you so much for that contribution.
So when we look at that country, you find out that college education or university education is actually very expensive. And then they now ask the parents, they now give loans to be able for those who would want to go for the student's loan and be able to go to college and get a degree. And when you look at such economy, they have high employment. But then when we come back to Nigeria, where do we have?
Right, let's take this call.
Studio.
Yeah, on to us.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
Hello.
Good
Hello.
morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Mrs. Rachel. Good morning, Mrs. Sele. I'm Sam. I'm calling from Buhari, Abuja.
All right, Mr. Sam.
Yes, my only take this morning is on the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. The headline said that there's a slaw between the INEC legal team and the labor legal team over the summon of Professor Mahmoud Yakub. But Nigerians should know that the voice of Professor Mahmoud Yakubu is the most important in this case. He should be allowed to come to the tribunal and tell Nigerians what really happened. Let them ask him questions against the backdrop of what he promised Nigeria. Any attempt to be able to prevent INEC from coming to the tribunal, it's not in the interest of Nigeria. And I pray that, objectivity will be able to overrule sense of deception, so that this man will come and tell us what happened. It is then that we'll become interested in the government of the day. If at the end of the day, the government of the day are said to be the one that actually won, then we can all put our hand together to support the new government. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sam, for that contribution.
So, as I was saying, this country has so much employment that we as Nigerians are applying to their country to get job, which means in that kind of place, when you take a student loan, you know for sure that you have a means of paying back when you're done with college. However, that is not the case here. And if we're to ask our parents, where did they truly struggle educating us, you will find that it's at the primary and the secondary level, because we're talking about tertiary university here. It's a one-time payment in a year, and the session runs through, and we're talking about another year. We have a caller.
Please turn down the volume of your TV set, sir.
To arrest him is not the issue here for me. Yeah, thank you. To arrest him is not the issue.
Yes, I am. Go ahead.
Okay. To arrest him here is not the issue, but the issue here now is to prosecute. Let me say, for the government to do the needful to prosecute if it's possible, or if he's faulty, if he's guilty, not to arrest. To arrest, yes, good and fine. Yes, we see say yes, he's arrested, but let the government do the needful, not just for the man to challenge government, take the matter to court here and there, tomorrow, tomorrow, next tomorrow. Let the government do the needful. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for your contribution.
So what I truly want from the government, I want to see an administration that truly knows the problem of Nigeria and tackles it. Now, nobody is saying that these tertiary loans are bad ideas completely, but on a scale of 1 to 10, is it truly the problem that the education system is facing? I think at the moment it is the least of the problems of the education sector, if we're going to be honest as Nigerians. I'm looking forward to an administration that will look at what is the problem. We're having our curriculum that is still backwards. We're having our facilities.
All right, let's take this caller from Akwa Ibom. Good morning, sir.
I want to know, because I'm a student in the rest of you.
All right.
Mommy.
Please turn down the volume of your TV set, sir.
How will we get this student loan?
Turn it down, please. Your volume.
I'm going to get the document required before we get this loan.
Yeah. Are you hearing me now?
Yes, I can.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Hello?
I can hear you clearly, sir. Please go ahead.
I said I'm a student from University of Uyo. I want to know because
Okay, I hope you call us back again, that caller from Akwa Ibom, because we'd love to hear what your take is as a student.
Yeah, I think I understand his question, though a little bit. He's trying to ask how would he get the loan? What
Okay.
we're talking about, yes, exactly. So I believe when the time comes, the federal government will give more information concerning it. Will definitely go down to the state level, and the disbursement will start there. Be at the federal state, there will be means through which you can access that loan, hopefully. And just as I said, we can see somebody calling to ask how to get the loan. So automatically it's not a bad idea, Sele. That is not the case here, but we keep saying we have bigger problems in
All right, let's take this
now.
call. Hello, sir. Good morning.
I want to know how can someone access the school loan?
All right. If you're following us, if you're following from the paper, the loan, you can access it from September. So some of the terms and conditions that were needed were listed. You need to have somebody in the civil service that's from grade level 12 and above, and then you hope to pay it maybe after your NYSC 2 years after you start getting your job. That's how you pay. So some of the terms on how you can get it will be listed out by the government. So just keep your fingers crossed, and we'll let you know all you need to know here on the platform, okay? Hello, are you with me?
Okay, can someone who has not started tertiary institution access the
No,
loan
no,
also?
no, no.
Have
It's only
to
meant
get-
for
yeah, you
students.
have to have an
Students
admission
in
letter,
the tertiary
yeah.
institution. You need to have your admission letter, because these are there are some documents that will be needed.
Yes, of
Your
course.
admission letter and every other thing they need. They can't just give somebody like a
that
ghost
is-
out
yes,
of
you
the
have
blues.
to be
They
admitted
need to know
into
you're
a tertiary
documented.
institution for you
Yeah.
to be able to access that loan ultimately, Sele. So just as I was saying, let's look at, we have students sitting on stones in our primary school. We have half-baked students who say they went through primary 1 to 5 and can't speak English or spell their names, Sele. We have bigger issues confronting I know people will say yes, they're going to, but I'm tired of waiting for when the government will start facing the real problems that are challenging us. I just want to see that they've started doing something towards the real and the bigger problem in Nigeria's education. And I believe that that's what me as an individual, as a Nigerian, I'm looking forward to seeing, that the real number 10, like the number 1 on the scale of 1 to 10, the number 1 problem is being faced and then being solved in the country.
You know, Richard, if you could recall yesterday, I said this loan is really a fabulous and a wonderful idea. Of course, according to the president, poverty should not be the reason why a student will be denied education. And of course, we know there are people who want to make it to the tertiary institution, but because of one or two things, it even depends. For example, if you are going to study medicine, for example, we know that it's quite expensive. Even if it's in a federal university, some of the books you need to get and so many other things that is needed, no matter, even let's not even talk about those who are studying medicine. Even if it's just an art course you're studying, there are a lot of things you need. So this loan will go to a way to actually reduce the burden on parents and also, you know, make students to be able to make it. But then, just like you said, let us face the real thing as it is. Yesterday, if you recall, I said if I am to advise, you know, apart from the fact that we should have this talking about the student loan, let us see where the House of Representatives, the Senate will pass a bill whereby it's been said that if you are a serving public officer, your child should study in Nigeria. Let us take that money that we keep financing other countries back into the country. That is the only way we'll be able to have money for this employment that we're talking about. Nigeria is facing about 40% unemployment. And just like one of our callers say, for every university, there are thousands of students that are being graduated every year. We still have the fact that some cannot even make it to even the NYSC because of one or two things. So you have to wait for a particular time. And then we are having people who have graduated for 5 years, 10 years, no jobs. And so I just hope, just like you said, let us see other measures being put in place. Just like when we're talking about the first subsidy removal, Nigerians were of the opinion, yes, They love the fact that the fuel subsidy has been removed, but were there measures being put in place so that Nigerians don't feel this pain? It's the same measure we're asking, okay, right now you want to give student loan. What are some of these measures, what are some of the steps you are putting in place to make sure that when they are done from school, they should be able to have something to help themselves? We have one of our callers talking about the back of industry, where very few people have access to loan to even start a small business that they hope to pay with time as they get, you know, profit from their business. So a lot of things need to be attended to, and I just hope that in as much as the president have a good heart to actually say students should go to school, but just like you say, let us look at our primary school, let's take a look at our secondary school, and even our tertiary institution. A lot of things need to be attended. Above all, let them be safety. Let them be secure. I can't get a loan and then I'm not secure to even go to class to get my, you know, lecture. So I hope that all of this thing will also be attended to. And let us quickly look at one paper, and then I think that is all we'll take for today. Let's take a look at the Metrics newspaper, where we have Bajabia Miller resigned from House of Reps after 20 years. You read detail of that on the front page and on page 4. NBA charges IGP, ICPC to prosecute senator. You can find that story inside the paper on page 4. Federal government to start disbursement of student loan from September, detailed on page 3. And we have also, after Amifele's exit, CBN floats Naira. Banks to determine exchange rate to dollar and other currency. CBN will be reintroducing the willing buyer, willing seller model at the I&E window. And NPCL may be forced to review petrol prices. You have to look detail of that story on the front page and on page 4. Tinubu goes tough with the Rider Bauer loans in DSS custody after suspension. More former ministers, head of agency to be investigated. The allegation that nailed Bauer's replacement unveiled. You read all of that on page 2. President Tinubu signed Nigeria Data Protection Bill 2023 into law. Federal government approved 2 oil export terminal licenses to generate $11 billion. Rail transport revenue dropped to 768 million naira in the first quarter of 2023. You find detail of that on page 13. How fire incident in TCN substation affected 60 MVA power transformer. You find detail of that on page 3 as well. And that's all in the metrics, and also how far we can go on the program this morning. Thanks so much, Rachel, for always doing this with me. Thank you to all our callers who called in and also contributed meaningfully to the program. Thank you to our producer, the crew members, and every other person who have been supporting and viewing Equa Television International. Until we come your way again, do have a blessed day ahead.